and burn.
Hey everybody. So tonight I would like to discuss Our Lady Peace's second album, I believe, Clumsy, and that was released. I think it was actually released in January '97, if memory serves. I know it was a release sometime around my birthday, and my birthday's in January. So, yeah, this is the record that like really put them on the map. I mean, some of us were paying attention to them with Navid because Navid was really good, but this is the record that blew them up. I mean, for anybody that remembers Our Lady Peace, this is the record that had 4 a.m.s on here, Superman's Dead's on here, Automatic Flowers is on here. The title track, Clumsy, was another big single for them. The song that I remember most is Superman's Dead. That was everywhere in 1997. And I think like one of my favorite things about this record was it took what they'd started with Navid, and Navid kind of feels like 10, like Pearl Jam's record 10. And this record feels more like Nirvana's In Utero. This record, not that Navid didn't have its dark elements, but Navid did again. It doesn't sound a thing like 10, but it has that sort of, I don't know, you could almost argue in a lot of ways too that like Navid was Bleach and this is Nevermind in a sense, because this record takes the sort of less commercial aspects of Navid, even though that record is catchy as fuck and really memorable. It takes the less commercial aspects and reworks them so that they are completely commercial. And that's why you get songs like Automatic Flowers on here and Clumsy and 4 a.m. I mean, this record still kicks ass. Hello Oscar is on here, and that song gets like punk as fuck at the end, and it's just not something that I would expect from Our Lady Peace. And I really, really love these two records from Our Lady Peace. After this, I think their next record was Happiness is a Fish You Can Catch. And the only song on there that I really loved was the single One Man Army. The rest of the record is solid, but it just didn't do what Navid and this record, Clumsy, did for me. And I think, too, the other thing, I have to say, like, Our Lady Peace's secret weapon at this point was their drummer, Jeremy Taggart. Like at times, it's almost like he's kind of got like a math metal thing going on from here and there. Like for split seconds of their songs throughout the course of just say this record alone, I hear aspects of like old Dillinger Escape Plan. Like I said, touches, like literal, like seconds worth. It's not any sort of actual drum beat that Jeremy's looking to play, that he's looking to mimic something like Dillinger Escape Plan did on Miss Machine or some shit. But it does sort of, the drums make this record way heavier. Not that the guitars don't make this record sort of crushing enough, because in a lot of ways they do. Because the other thing that I loved about at least Our Lady Peace at this point was, at this point in the mid to late 90s, Canadian bands were doing really well for themselves. Whether it was, Celine Dion, she was doing really well. Or if it was Sarah McLachlan, she was doing really well. Or if it was the Bare Naked Ladies, they were doing really well for themselves. And then if you look back through the legacy of Canadian bands, Rush have always done really well for themselves. And Bruce Cockburn, there's another Canadian singer, songwriter, folk, whatever the fuck he is, who's been going forever. And like Rose Above the Sky is like, my God, Rose Above the Sky is like one of the best songs I've ever heard. But all of those bands, every one of them, especially the Bare Naked Ladies, they sound Canadian. I don't exactly know what it is about Sarah McLachlan, or Alanis Morissette for that matter, but there's something about their music that they sound Canadian. And I don't find that with Our Lady Peace, at least not with Navid and this record. I find that the artwork, everything about their first two records doesn't feel Canadian. Whereas with Happiness, I found that the cover art from that record to be very Canadian-esque, and it reminded me of something like Great Big Sea would do. Great Big Sea is another great band, but again, very Canadian. And I mean, Our Lady Peace are 100% Canadian as well. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, pretty sure they're from Toronto. And Chantal Kraviatsik, there's somebody else, Rain, the vocalist from Our Lady Peace, his wife. Her stuff didn't always sound Canadian. Same thing with Nelly Furtado. Never really found her stuff to sound too Canadian. It was able to sort of blur the line. Like Our Lady Peace, like they could have been American. They could have been from LA. They could have been from Oregon. They could have been from fucking Buffalo. But they happen to be Canadian, and they don't automatically signal out to that. Like their Canadian roots are never really made all that clear on these records. They're just a band. And it's like, it always seems like Canadian music sort of has like that good guy quality to it. Like, it's been 1 week since you turned it down, and it's like, and if I had $1 million, if I had $1 million, and it's very positive and very like pro-social, and that's always seemed to be what Canadian bands were going after, or maybe they still are. I don't know. But at this point, it did seem like Canadian bands were very easy to identify. But Our Lady Peace weren't one of those bands. They just hit too hard. And they knew how to wrap themselves around a hook. Like Rain, the vocalist, he wrote all the lyrics, and therefore I'm assuming he writes all of the vocal hooks. And this record just sounds like I said, like this record's like Nevermind or some shit. There's a lot of commercial aspects on here, but this record still rocks. Like I said, like the Hello Oscar is a fucking ass kicker of a song. Car Crash kicks ass. Superman's Dead. Automatic Flowers. God, I love that song. Clumsy's a little quieter. 4 a.m. is completely quiet. But this record overall has a lot of thump to it. And again, I attribute that to the drummer, Jeremy. This record's amazing. But I think that's where I'm going to stop. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little over 6 minutes while I discuss Our Lady Peace's second album from 1997, and that is Clumsy. Like always, if you like this review or you love this record, don't forget to go out and do something nice for somebody. But most importantly, never forget that the world is actually a better place because you are in it. I'm getting out of here. Have a good night.